All right, I'll call this meeting to order. And I'll start with roll call. Kelsey?
Here.
Blake?
Here.
Merle?
Here.
Alberto?
Here.
Glenn?
Here.
Jenny, approved absence. Crystal here. If you'll join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, if you've had a chance, I would entertain a motion for the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move we accept the agenda as presented. I'll second.
So the first is by Glenn, the second is by Blake. For motion. So any discussion?
I wondered if we could move the HR portion to the regular agenda, or if it's all right with the chair, I'll just ask one question on that before we approve consent agenda.
Yeah, you can ask a question during the discussion part of the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Moving to a vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Public comment? I'm sorry, I didn't look at our paperwork. Did we have a public comment?
No.
Okay, thank you. Board communication.
All right, well, it's that time of year where we are honoring our retirees, and so I'm gonna go in a slight different order than what is posted on our agenda. And so I'm going to start with honoring Hilda Gonzalez, who is an ELD instructional assistant, and so I have a statement we've prepared here to honor Hilda. Tonight, we are honored to recognize Hilda Gonzalez and celebrate nearly 3 decades of dedicated service to the North Marion School District. For 29.5 years, Hilda has been a trusted and valued member of our school community. She began her career with North Marion in 1997. When North Marion Primary School opened its doors, Hilda joined the staff of the new K2 building, where she would continue serving students, families, and staff for the remainder of her career. As an English language assistant, Hilda played a vital role in supporting multilingual learners and helping families feel welcome, connected, and successful in our schools. Through her work, she provided not only academic support, but also encouragement, advocacy, and caring presence for countless students and families navigating their educational journey. In addition to her work with students, Hilda took on the important responsibility of serving as the district's substitute caller for several years before the implementation of the automated system we use today. This behind-the-scenes role required reliability, flexibility, and an unwavering commitment to ensuring our schools were staffed and ready to serve students each day. Throughout her career, Hilda has been known for her dedication, kindness, and willingness to help wherever as she was needed. Her steady presence and genuine care for others have left a lasting impression on colleagues, students, and families alike. On behalf of the North Marion School District, we extend our deepest gratitude to Hilda for her 29.5 years of service and commitment to our students and community. Her contributions have made a lasting difference, and her legacy will continue to be felt for years to come. Please join us in congratulating Hilda on her well-deserved retirement and wishing her many years of happiness, health, and enjoyment ahead.
Yeah.
Hilda's not here this evening. We do have a gift for her that we will get to her. Now we will recognize Dawn Marbury. Tonight, we have the privilege of recognizing Dawn Marbury and celebrating her 19 years of dedicated service to the North Marion School District. Dawn joined North Marion in 2007 as a high school home arts teacher and quickly became a beloved member of our staff. Throughout her career, she taught a wide range of family and consumer science courses, including foods, baking, culinary arts, and child development. Whenever the need arose, she willingly stepped outside her primary assignment to support students and colleagues, even teaching communication courses when called upon. When longtime educator Darylyn Johnston retired, Dawn became the district's sole family and consumer science teacher. Recognizing the evolving focus on family and consumer science education, Dawn took the initiative to seek out and implement the ProStart program. She invested time and resources transforming North Marion's traditional cooking classes into a career-focused culinary program our students benefit from today. Her commitment to students extended beyond the classroom. Dawn introduced North Marion students to culinary competitions, creating opportunities for them to showcase their talents and develop professional skills. Later in her career, Dawn transitioned to the Opportunity Center, where she continued making a profound difference in students' lives. There, she helped struggling students recover credits and stay on track toward graduation. She brought her trademark creativity and encouragement to the role, developing traditions such as the Top Banana Recognition Program and Cupcake Monday, both of which provided students with motivation, connection, and reasons to celebrate their successes. Throughout her 19 years at North Marion, Dawn has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to help students succeed. Whether teaching career skills in the kitchen or supporting students on their path to graduation, she has always led with care, compassion, and a genuine belief in the potential of every student. On behalf of the North Marion School District, we thank Dawn for her years of service, her innovation, and countless lives she has touched. We wish her health, happiness, and many fulfilling years ahead in retirement. And last but not least, Jill Colley. So Jill began her career with North Marion in 1995 as a records clerk, working just 15 hours per week. Over the next several years, her role evolved as she served in a variety of support positions, including substitute secretary assignments in both the district office and our school buildings. While serving as a long-term substitute district secretary, Jill discovered a natural talent for troubleshooting technology challenges and helping others navigate new systems. That talent led her to become the district's webmaster, managing and supporting all district websites. As technology became increasingly important to the work of all our schools, Jill's responsibilities continued to grow. She became an integral member of the technology department, providing exceptional support to staff and students across the district for the remainder of her career. Jill's friendly smile, calm demeanor, and unwavering commitment to helping others have made her a familiar and trusted presence throughout North Marion. Whether the issue was large or small, staff knew they could count on Jill to show up with patience, expertise, and a genuine desire to help them solve the problem. Even making screens kind of work and how those things here tonight. Her contributions have touched every school, department, and classroom in our district. Through decades of service, Jill has helped North Marion successfully navigate tremendous changes in technology while always keeping people at the center of her work. On behalf of the North Marion School District, we thank Jill for her dedication, professionalism, and countless contributions over the past 31 years. We wish her all the best in her well-earned retirement and the exciting new adventures that lie ahead. Jill Colley.
I personally agree. Well, thank you. Thanks for being so sweet. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yes.
I hope it's so much fun. I do too.
Any quick story?
Like what were the?
You could do what you do, maybe the craziest technology challenge you ever encountered.
Oh, yeah, one of my favorites, teacher, was, you know how it says, Microsoft print fax printer or whatever, it's just a phantom printer, like if you wanna make a picture of what you want to print. He didn't have the printer that he wanted, so he changed the name to what he wanted, like HS dash room 5 dash, oops, I just gave away who it was. Anyway, yeah, he just changed the name of it, and so when I went to help him print, I'm like, well, this just wants to make a picture of the print, it doesn't want to send it to a piece of hardware. And I just couldn't believe what he did. Things like that, they happen all the time.
Yeah, your
We
day
call
is
them
probably not the same ever, any day.
No, it isn't, we call those ID10T errors. Know what that- Can you picture? Do I need to write it on the board?
No, don't write on the board.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
All right, high school ASB.
everyone. I'm all by myself today as Dorissa's graduated, but she's on to bigger and better things, so. I am going to be talking about stuff that we're excited for next school year, how this school year went and our new ASB and class positions. I am this upcoming school year's new ASB president. And ASB vice president is Vanessa Trullo. She's gonna be a junior. And then I'm gonna go by presidents, because we actually did things a little bit differently this year than last year for elections. We had a whole bunch of descriptions on what each position did outside of Miss Bailey's classroom in the high school. And you would get a different form based on what you wanted to do, and if you ran against somebody, you would have to send in a speech video, and they would decide based on like your GPA, how you've been in school, your overall performance. So these are some of the positions that I'm gonna be reading off that were offered for an application at the high school. Was elections coordinator, athletic rep, mascot, school spirit, historian, assembly coordinator, service and outreach, social media communications, and general member. And then we have our senior president, which is Christian Delgado. We have our junior president, which is Mar Barajas, and then our sophomore president, which is Mercedes Valerio. Freshmen have not been determined yet. They did get sent a form, and I did go over and talk to the middle school about 2 weeks ago to tell them what it would look like. Teachers recommended certain students for certain positions, and the teachers at the high school determined the overall outcome of that. Senior awards was a thoughtful evening. Our seniors receiving financial support as well as wishes for their next adventures. Being in such a phenomenal facility, the rain didn't affect our graduates on Friday, which that was something really cool to see. Our band deserves a shout out. They played a few times during that, which was really cool also to see. We talked a little bit about ASB elections. We're super excited for the upcoming sports that are coming up. Football season, Friday Night Lights, soccer, volleyball, all that fun stuff. Super fun coming up in October. We have homecoming, stuff like that. The clubs did really well. ASB did really well this year. National Honor Society, Key Club doing their annual blood drive. They have one coming up, I believe, June 27th. And then Big Brother Big Sister had an end of year party. We went over to the primary school and just blew bubbles and played shots with the little kids. And then we're excited for next year is we really liked what we did for homecoming. We had our group volleyball, and then we're expanding it to have a parade, I believe, this upcoming year, which will be really cool with all the districts. Pep assemblies are gonna be something super important that we're gonna try to do once or twice every month for different sports and just to get the school excited for more spirit points. And ASB is trying to get a class for this school year, so that way it'll be easier for us to decide and prep things throughout the year. So yeah, that's what's on our agenda for this upcoming year and next year.
Excellent.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You will not be bored.
And you can take the summer off. We'll let you. You don't have to come to these meetings in the summertime, but we'll look forward to seeing you back in September. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Joe.
Thanks for calling that out. Bye, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and then acknowledge that we have summer meals in the park. It'll be at Rivinus Park in Hubbard on Mondays and Thursdays, and Chateau Properties in Woodburn on Mondays and Thursdays. Details are available on the website. Moving on, we'll move to the consent agenda. I'd entertain a motion. Do I hear a motion for the consent agenda?
Your question is gonna be presented on the back part of
In the discussion piece.
I'll make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
The first one was by Glenn, the second one was by Kelsey. Discussion?
I have one question. Soccer coach. How are we doing?
Boys soccer coach we have hired, but if it did not make its way onto the agenda, this agenda. And I'd have to go back and see, so you brought this up before, we have hired a soccer coach. And it was our previous assistant coach. So, but if it didn't make it onto agenda, we'll need to catch that up.
So it's the same coach we had last year?
No, so it was the assistant coach to Raphael.
Okay.
I think his name is Beto, and I'm not sure his last name. What's that?
Delgado,
Okay,
Ostroberto Delgado.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Alberto, yeah.
He does exist.
yes,
I know the name, yeah.
All right, excellent.
I'm glad to hear that.
yes, yep.
Okay,
And we also hired a cheer coach today.
Wondered about that. I was kind of
Yeah.
disappointed.
That'll be in 2 weeks' agenda.
To see
You're just
that
getting ahead of yourself.
resignation. I was kind of disappointed.
Yeah.
It's a big job.
Yes.
all right. No more discussion, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next, we'll move to the budget hearing. Now, do I need to open this?
At this point, we open the budget hearing for public comment.
Okay. Just want to make sure. So we'll open the budget hearing for public comment. A public hearing provides the opportunity for public comments on the 2026-2027 approved budget. Board members and budget committee members will not respond to public comments. The board will now take any public comments regarding the North Marion School District approved budget for the fiscal year 2026-2027. I'll give it a moment. Do we have any public comments online? No public in person? All right. Okay. I'll close the budget hearing no public comments. So I will now open the floor for board action. I'm looking for a motion for resolution number 060826A, adopting the budget, imposing tax and categorizing tax for the 2026-2027. Would you like these motions separate or all together?
I believe you have a blue text sheet that it's gonna be one motion.
Excellent. Do I hear? Go for it.
I move that we approve resolution 060826A for the 2026-27 fiscal year as follows. Making appropriations as shown adopting a total budget of $42,363,162 for the 2026-27 fiscal year, and imposing ad valorem property taxes for 2026-2027 at the permanent rate of $3.3333 per thousand of assessed value, and imposing $2,468,242 in tax excluded from limitation, and categorizing the tax as indicated in resolution 060826A for the purposes of Article 11, Section 11B. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Glenn made the motion, Kelsey seconded. Any discussion? Eric,
I'm progressively exposing my ignorance, but is the resolution 060826A what we have here in front of us?
It should be this, and it should say resolution 06.
Okay,
Up at the
Yeah,
top,
up at the
header
very
should
top.
say
you have
resolution.
it there. All right. Thank you. That's,
We're
I think that was the question, only question I had.
okay,
Well,
the budget discussion is closed. Moving to a vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, the next item that we're asking you to vote upon is to ratify the UNME contract for 2026 through 2029. Super excited to have a 3-year agreement with our teachers union. You've heard me say multiple times that this process was highly collaborative, professional on both parts, by both parties. Even when disagreements are happen, which they, by the nature of contract negotiations and collective bargaining, conflicts are going to happen. But I will say that there wasn't a single problem that we weren't able to better understand each other and come to some agreements. Even within the final stages of trying to hit that last little thing that we were trying to work through, I think both parties were looking to say, build trust with each other. In terms of especially kind of the workday article, we did some things that I think helped build trust with the union so that they felt comfortable in adopting that particular article as an example. And even afterwards, we were able to work collaboratively to develop the what's called the red line version that's linked on the agenda. Because we did a lot of work in rebuilding a new contract that hopefully is going to be more user friendly for all of our teachers. And so, and really credit to Des for working with UNME and developing that. And so very excited to ask you to vote to approve this collective bargaining agreement, adopt this collective bargaining agreement that will go into effect July 1st, 2026.
Do I hear a motion?
I move that the board approve and adopt the collective bargaining agreement between the North Marion School District and the United North Marion Educators for the period of July 1, 2026 and June 30th, 2029.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
First by Blake, second by Kelsey. Any discussion? All those in favor? Say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're gonna move on to business and budget.
I would just say, like to interject, thank you for,
Yeah, they did fantastic.
thanks for the work that was put in on it. It really was a good process, and kudos to how it was executed, how it was brought together. So I've seen some ones that were not as tidy, and this one was very, very professionally done. And
Yeah.
this kudos to
Both sides.
And again,
Great
yeah,
job.
thank you very much. It is a lot of work. And I just want to say that it really is extra work on our teachers. They teach all day and then have to come ready to do that. And they were the most organized group that I've ever sat across the table from in their preparation. And that just makes it the process. I mean, again, you're gonna have conflict, but it's even worse when one party's not ready. Because then there's frustration, and they were always ready. So, but thank you very much.
All right, moving on, business and budget.
Perfect, thank you guys. So June is kind of our, I call it the harvest month, because everything, it comes right down to getting it wrapped up here in June, but we're entering the final weeks of the fiscal year, working on our year-end financial activities. One piece I always like to bring up in June, just to kind of emphasize the gravity of it, is due to the unique way that school district payroll is run. 25% of our annual payroll is going out this month. We have most of our employees receive 12 checks a year. 3 of those are paid out in June. So it's a very, very heavy lift and definitely a cash flow monitoring month for sure. In addition, we're actively working on our grants, closing out our grants. We have year-end state reports for enrollment and a number of other pieces. And then also wrapping up our interim audit, which is the mid-year, and mid-year is not an appropriate term, but it is a audit that is done in advance of the final year closeout so that we are able to streamline that process. So I'm gonna share a brief presentation here and just highlighting a couple of pieces from the monthly financial report. So we are trending positively in our revenue at this point. This, excuse me, this slide is a snapshot from the financial report showing where we're projecting each of our different revenue buckets to end up. Right now, I am projecting that our revenues will come in above budget by $474,000. Again, that is a positive variance from where we had budgeted, and very pleased with that. As we've talked about, the current additional funds we're receiving for the transportation grant represent about 270 to 300,000 of that. So that is a piece of that positivity there. The next screen talks about our expenditures and where we are within appropriations. The budget you just approved is approving how much we can spend within each of these categories. So just like you did a year ago, you approved what a district can spend within each of those categories. At a recent board meeting, there was a request for a budget appropriations transfer, which is now why you see our variance is positive on expenditures, meaning we are coming in below budget in each of our appropriation functions. This is what the state mandates. We cannot overspend at these categories. The next slide, though, is then showing within those appropriations, what are we putting our money toward? So while our appropriations are what the state is looking at to make sure we stay within our spending authority within those activities that the state calls them functions, objects are another piece that we use to just measure where our funds are going. So we can see that we are still projected to be over our anticipated expenditures on purchased services. And again, going back to purchased services, this is insurance, utilities, transportation, and substitutes are really our big pieces in there. And while we are within our budgeted appropriations, even that move, we still have costs in excess of where we thought they would be for those main categories. That is not a restriction or a consideration that the state looks at, but that does help us in our budgeting process as we go forward. So I just like to show kind of those two different ways of what programs is it going to, but then within those programs, what is that money going out the door for? So at the bottom of each financial report, I provide what is our projected revenue variance. Positive revenue variance means we are receiving more revenue than we anticipated. That was the number from the first slide. The positive expenditure variance, we are coming in under expenses by $907,000. And then our projected contingency, this was what the board approved a year ago, that there was 1.276 million to be set aside. We have not touched that this year, obviously. So when all those numbers are put together, today I'm projecting we could end the year at 2.658 million. The budget that has been approved and adopted, excuse me, I should say now it's adopted, budgeted at 2.5 million. So right now there's a positive swing right there that could help provide some additional breathing room for us in the next school year. So I just kind of like to break that out for people so you can kind of see what that financial report is telling us versus what we're at. When we go on to the next piece, this is a snip from the enrollment report that is in each month. And this is a report that I'm providing month by month to show the movement in our enrollment by grade level. And I will say, I was surprised. The movement between May and June was significantly more than we've seen in prior years. This definitely is a concern. On the next slide, I want to show you how when we're projecting enrollment, what are the things we look at? We like to look at, we see what our enrollment is October 1st traditionally. We see where we are June 1st traditionally. And we look and see what kind of change might we expect to see throughout the year. And we use June 1st because you've got seniors that graduate. You've got certain things that impact your numbers once June starts rolling a little bit, but we try to pick these days. And so when we're projecting enrollment, we look back. On the next slide, you can see that for this school year, my most recent projection back in February, which I have to submit to the state, I thought we could end 25-26 at 1543. And I thought by putting in a 2.4% reduction based on historical trends, we should be safe. Unfortunately, as you saw on the previous slide, we're at 1526 now. So shown on the next slide, oh, it did not update. I apologize, my image did not update. Oh yes, this one is the 1526. That change from October to June is unlike anything we've seen before. And so that bottom row shows that back in February, when the state required me to send in our projection for next year, I used 1535, hoping we were gonna end the year at 1540 something, knowing that we lose a couple over the summer typically. As of right now, if that enrollment comes in similar to 1526 in September, we are currently adopting a budget that may have revenue projections in excess of what we may see. So while we just saw a positive 150,000 maybe on the ending fund balance, 10 students is about $120,000 to $130,000 lost. So we need to be very cautious when we start to see positive movement of one place, because there are so many movements on the other side. And I really just want to do this to help educate the importance of our programs and our investments in this district to have kids want to be here, stay here. We can't help when families have to move for certain reasons. There are certain things that are out of our control, but we really need to be very cognizant of what we're doing to make sure that this is the district that our students want
I
to stay
believe
in.
last meeting you talked about the kindergarten, you were happy they were already 92, you know where that's at now.
I have not heard an updated figure, have either of
Okay.
you? Yeah.
But it will definitely be below our senior class
Of
of
130.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
130, yeah.
got it.
We were definitely projecting that, that 40-ish student change.
Yeah.
The movement throughout this year has been quite surprising. If we back up a number of slides, I was actually quite surprised when if we go to the by grade, that guy. Our change was actually across the board. We went down 4 at the primary school, down 3 at the intermediate, down 1 at the middle, down 4 at the high. So it was kind of an across the board, movement. So it is possible, due to the way the state rules regarding student attendance work, it is possible that we have families that are on extended trips and intend to return in the fall. We do have to remove students from our enrollment counts after 10 days of missed school. So sometimes these numbers are very fluid, but we have to pick a point in time to take these snapshots and continue to analyze. So, while I would love to see more students here for sure, we will just have to continue to monitor this, and it just outlines the importance of wise fiscal choices and making sure our spending is really targeted to make sure that we can do the best we can with what we have. So, are there any questions on those updates?
I think one thing I could, before you ask questions, to add to that, tonight we honored Jill Colley and her retirement. So one of the things that we're doing in that position, she's a tech assistant. Instead of filling that position with another tech assistant, we're filling it with what's called a data specialist. And one of the primary things is really making sure all the data that we across all buildings is entered the same way, that we're tracking attendance the same way, that when students are absent for a certain number of days, we don't 10-day drop them until we've either received records from them. And I don't know, I can't say with any certainty that we have any consistency on how we enroll and unenroll students from one building to the next. And so our ability to have accurate information all the time, I can't say with any real reliability, because we haven't had a person that oversees kind of those secretarial responsibilities. And I'm not saying like a secretarial supervisor, but someone who oversees that kind of work to make sure that all of the data that we have in our system is accurate. And I'm not, this would just be, what I'm about to say is a total assumption, not saying that this happened or not, but are we at the time of the year where, man, we need to unenroll some of these students because we're behind. And so this thing that maybe have been sitting aside got, like a transfer request, finally, we got to it. Cause secretaries are busy this time of year. And that again, that's just me making an assumption without knowing that for any factual. It just having worked in buildings before and seeing how busy they get, could that have happened? And if we had someone overseeing those responsibilities and checking in with secretaries and having some expectations around those things, could our data be more reliable? And also making sure some of these numbers is, do we know why these students have left? And I know that that's something within our strategic plan that we talked about having exit interviews. Not that we can always require people to respond, but do we know why they're leaving? So definitely some efforts for next year that we need to be attending to. And so that data specialist position is posted. And that'll be a position that we'll be hiring here early this summer.
So more systemness and process.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I have one question. So the savings we're seeing in making our ending fund balance better for this are those one-time savings or are those savings that will in the positive direction that will be ongoing?
I see what it's both actually. So some of the savings might be due to attrition. Maybe we have somebody who resigns in April and we say, can we limp through, right? Can we save through that attrition and not fill that position for a period of time? I do want to be very complimentary of our schools. The consciousness of what we're spending our money on is really appreciated, and it is going to make a difference in a very difficult year or two to come. And so there are some repeat savings, and there are also just when there's an opportunity that does not negatively impact operations or students, absolutely, we're going to look at that.
Okay. And similarly, and this also then jogged my memory about the board policy that you adopted here a couple months ago around what is our ending fund balance? Well, we're not at the 10% goal. We're not at the 8% goal. So we will need to bring a resolution for you. But I think one of the things, Kim, you did in adopting the budget is we put some aside, but we also needed to spend some to keep operations going. So it's moving in the right direction, but we certainly didn't save all of it, or we didn't save every penny of it, because we needed to keep operations moving, so.
I mean, there's just it's double any 2-year period here.
Yeah, it
And
just,
I'm just trying to, any additional thoughts on why? 3.5%.
exactly. I want to say, I was floored because in February, when the state, required us to submit our projections, we were at 1560. This is not in line, with much of anything I've seen. The enrollment report, I didn't put this on my slide, but I ended up changing out the graph on the bottom, and it's the enrollment change by year of,
Sure.
yeah, and it's, you're looking at it saying, okay, so the red line, which was last year, didn't really plummet, we kind of have a dip around, and I apologize, my week numbers at the bottom are a little small, but around, week 24 to 26, we get a little bit of a dip, but then it kind of plateaued. But boy, this year we really saw that dip there. So trend data is great until you have these anomalies and without the exit data and without consistent data entry, maybe we don't necessarily have as many answers as we need to be able to address this and
Is there any exit data on the 55?
we get,
That's gathered right now, or is that not really?
I don't believe there's.
Not that we've put together, or we could try to put together to give you
That's okay, just trying to
yeah.
think, to see over double any 2-year period, I mean, you can almost take a 3-year period here, 55 is big.
Merle, you had a question?
I was curious how the weighting, the ADM weight, does that benefit us? In our district because of our mix of students, how do we come out on that?
Yeah, the state pays schools additional weights for fractions of an enrollment, if you will, for certain populations. So our special education population, our English language learner population. So we do have some relatively healthy weightings in some of those, but there's also limitations. The state caps the weights for special education at 11%. And most districts are in the 15 to 18% of students being identified as special education. Our English language learner weights are additional funding that is directed to those students. And so we'll be talking more about that, I think, as time goes on. And the question you're asking could be a complex, because depending upon which students are leaving, we might be losing more than 100% of a student enrollment. We might be, if we lose a special education student, although we're capped, but some students are worth 2.0 ADM, some are worth 1.0 ADM. So depending on which students come and go, it actually can swing your funding pendulum greater or less, actually. So
some of it's a plus and some are minus, and maybe some of those categories cost us more than the additional.
1000% of many of our students cost us more than the additional funding that we receive for that. Yes.
Is there any way to compare to other school districts to see if that drop is in line with?
Yeah, the live data is very hard to get, because there's collections that are going in. We will be seeing that, we would see those ADM collections. I think they give us preliminary data in January of next year. I mean, it's so delayed, but what does make it difficult is every district in the state is sending in those projections, right? So we are all sending in projections, and the state is saying, here's what we project you'll get of next year's money. So right now, our projection went in at one thing. And so projections are very tough until that actual data comes out, which is just the cumulative ADM, excuse me, it's a state report that we do on our final enrollments. It's months before we see the full results of that statewide.
Any last thoughts?
I don't think we did have a handout from Diana, maybe on the number of homeschoolers over the years. You had some data on that? Might be interesting for Blake's question. I didn't have it with me.
Transfers in and out. All right, let's move on. District operations report.
Because I gotta get my right screen, my correct screen, thank you.
Yep. So we just wanted to let you all know there was a competitive grant this year for summer school. The last few years for summer school, it has been not officially competitive. We were told like we qualified and there was a set amount, we had to apply for it or tell them that we were interested in and meet their expectations in terms of our application. This year it changed, so we were competing against other districts and had to submit a budget. And we were selected, which was fantastic. The nice thing about that selection even more so is that the amount we were granted, which was over $400,000 for summer school, we will get it every year for the next 3 years. So with the last few years with summer school, one of the hardest pieces is the state would announce how much they were going to allocate for summer school, and we would start the application process about 2 months before school start. And so now, and that happened again this year, so we are definitely in scramble mode because we weren't sure if we were going to get the money, especially with it being competitive this year. But next year we will have that money set. We can actually plan summer school in January and be ready to go. The programs are going to be run at, we will have a program at the primary school, the intermediate school, and the middle school. We have it slotted to serve between 80 and 90 students. The focus of these programs are for literacy. That is the focus that the state has given us. So it is open to all students, but we are specifically inviting kids and targeting students who are struggling in their literacy skills. And then it will be kind of a first come, first serve with those students having priority who have received specialized invitations. We have about 20 or so students in each of the buildings that we're specifically hand inviting and encouraging to participate. The program will be 3 weeks. It will run from 8:30 to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday. We're gonna be providing transportation for students, which is a big chunk of the budget, as well as meals, both breakfast and lunch, for students. And then the other component within the literacy is enrichment. So we're hoping to get, we're partnering with the Woodburn Library. They bring a bookmobile and help kids get library cards, as well as doing some field trips to local organizations. In the past, we visited the Aurora Colony and the Malala Forestry Center, et cetera. So really excited for this opportunity and to be able to offer this again to our families. We know that summer school kind of serves dual purposes for our families. One is it is that enrichment opportunity to be able to extend our school year, to offer additional supports. But the other support we know is that for a lot of our families, they're working, and this allows them to have some childcare kind of built into their summer plans, which is really important, because we know those costs can be prohibitive for some of our families. So we're excited to be able to offer that up. The other thing that we are working with the Willamette Educational School District Services is to offer our migrant school, again, our migrant services. We are this year looking to more closely align those with our regular summer schools so that kids aren't in a separate program, but just integrated with the regular program so that they are with their peers. And we potentially will be able to extend their day a little bit longer because of funding that the WESC will give us. And so we're excited to be able to partner with them again, but we are looking for it to be a much more inclusive program to help our students. So we're excited for this money.
Does that do anything with the transportation costs that keep us above a certain level?
The summer school's not eligible
Okay, I
for.
just wondered how that worked.
No, it's completely
With
separate
this
and expensive, like ridiculously expensive also. All right. There's that one.
Any questions?
If, go ahead.
How do we track efficacy?
How well they do?
Yeah.
So part of the requirement for the state is that we have to track data on it. We do two different things. One is we are using STAR data, so it's the same assessment that we do during the school year. We use their spring scores, and then we will compare them to their fall scores and see if we see growth for those students who use summer school, and then we'll be able to compare those to students who didn't use summer school. And then we have additional embedded assessments that are part of the materials and curriculum that we use during summer school.
Cool.
Yes.
If the goal's at 80, do you think you'll get 80? What does that look like? And does the allocated funding there, is it per student, or is it if you have 60 out of the 80, what does that do?
That's a good question. We don't know that yet. We don't know if they'll come knocking. So when we built our budget, we built it and said, this is how much we're gonna spend, and we plan on serving X number of students. And then we had to say, this is what our per student cost would be. So I'm sure part of why we got it was because we were able to say, hey, we're coming in at this number versus this number, so a reasonable number. We have not ever not served the number. Last year, we actually had to cut, because the year before had said this is the amount, and then the next year they cut those funds, and so we went down to 60 kids. But we easily served 80 the previous year, so I don't anticipate there being much of an issue.
So, but summer school is self-sufficient, doesn't touch the rest of the budget.
No. Well, we might look to see if there's some ESSER dollars because we need some additional instructional assistance, so we were gonna look at that a little bit possibly. But I think we're able to make most of our funding within it. The other thing I didn't mention actually that we were able to do with the budget is we included Jumpstart. And Jumpstart normally is a 4-day, the start of kindergarten, to count for the student. So we have to do at least 80 hours with our regular summer school. For Jumpstart, you had to do 30 hours, with double the amount of time for Jumpstart. Our kindergarten team was like, oh, I don't know. We basically said, no, we have to make this happen because now we can use the state funding to make it happen. Otherwise, it comes out of our general fund budget. And so they were able to give us a 2-week commitment, and they were really like, okay, we will do this because this is an important thing. So we were really grateful to our kindergarten team for coming through. And we're gonna be able to do 2 weeks of Jumpstart, which really for those kindergarten kiddos should be really beneficial. So, and that's set to serve 90 kids as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
And not to correct, but you said Esser, and I think
You
it's
meant
S,
SIA.
SI, I was like, this
SIA.
yes.
yeah,
Oh,
so,
wow.
yeah. So, not that anyone probably knows what any of those
No.
acronyms mean, but just, yeah.
Okay, anything else before we move on? Okay, moving on, superintendent report.
All right, so we have linked a 2.5 page, year one implementation guide for you. We're not gonna read this word for word, but as we adopted our 5-year strategic plan, we figured that we needed to be able to report out what's our focus for year one, and so the way this works going across is it talks about the strategic initiative and the actions, the systems that need to be in place, and then how we're going to measure that. And so what this provides for us and for you, the board, is really a checklist of the things that we say we're gonna do next year. And then how we're going to measure it going across. So I'm not gonna go through this in its entirety. I'm gonna highlight a few things. So in the first one, this PLUS framework really is a reinforcement of our literacy and our focus on both language acquisition and language development. The PLUS framework is a strategy to help all students become better at the English language. So in all subject areas. So data analysis is another important one. And because there's a common expression out there that you can be data rich and information poor. And so we have lots of data, but do we know how to make sense of it and use it to make actions? And so I don't know, Des, if you want to talk a little bit about EduClimber and Elevation.
Yeah, so EduClimber is a dashboard tool run by Renaissance, which is who owns Star Literacy, so a test that we use. But we can feed it additional data and then use it to track data. We used our comprehensive district literacy grant funding to purchase EduClimber. And the justification was that this is a tool that we can use to really monitor how our students are doing. And so it allows us to put in key performance indicators, and as kids slip below those, it will give us warnings like, hey, this is a kiddo that needs a different intervention. It allows us to track interventions. It allows us to track other types of data, including discipline data, our test score data from the state, etc. Elevation is very similar, but focused on our language learners. It tracks all the information about language development. And then actually teachers can click on a student. It will say, okay, they're at this level with their language development, and it will give them ways to adapt their lesson plans to better meet the needs of those students. So just those are two different tools that allows teachers to have really accessible data and good tools to monitor student progress.
Excellent.
So in the performance indicator 2, improve student attendance and engagement. So we're gonna continue to focus on school attendance teams. I don't know if our teams were as meeting as frequently as they did my first year in the district. But I will say, in looking at the attendance data, as far as absenteeism, we haven't seen a big dip in terms of the absenteeism data. At least not across the board. Some schools did actually remarkably better. At our next board meeting in 2 weeks, we're gonna give you a year-end data review, so you'll have some attendance data there for that. So the other one, performance indicator 3, access to and success in rigorous coursework. So we're gonna conduct a feasibility study, and so Des, you wanna talk about the report to the board in the spring of 2027, because this is all your idea.
So as part of the desire from the team, it was like, how do we increase the number of upper level courses, and whether that is through, we've used College Credit Now in the past, we are using Willamette Promise currently, and there are other tools that we could be using. So we're gonna do a feasibility report, which means we're gonna look into the costs and the different courses that could be done, whether it's adding additional Willamette Promise courses, are there other colleges we can partner with? How are our CTE partners, like how are our CTE programs partnering with colleges or universities? And are there other programs like advanced placement, for example, that might be available to our students, what's the cost of them? What is kind of the demand on training, et cetera? Is this something that's feasible for us to look into? So we'll come back to the board in the spring with like, here's some proposals of ways we can continue to grow in those areas, as well as how are we, like, as we grow, it's one thing to add a bunch of courses, but adding courses that have 4 kids in them don't do us any good. So how do we also create feasibility where we're creating good pathways for kids? What does that look like at the middle school, where we're preparing kids for upper level courses once they hit high school? And we are making sure that those classes are actually accessible to them because they're passing their classes in high school. And the freshman year especially, so that they have access to them as they move up through the ranks.
So as we move to the second page and focusing on culture and community. You can see there that we want to refine our student management systems. And I really think that middle area under, better communication with families regarding behavior expectations. I think that that's an area where, kind of under the motto of clear as kind, what do we expect from students? And then what happens when they don't meet those expectations? I think is something as a school, each of our schools could improve upon and also develop some strong behavior intervention systems. So we look forward to reporting back to you on that throughout next year. Also a key thing that was embedded throughout the strategic plan adoption is better partnerships. And so I had a meeting with our PTO, we have new PTO leadership. And so I had 4 officers of the PTO in my office here about a week ago. Really excited, they're gonna join our admin meeting on June 25th. And my goal is to have really a PTO at every single building under the umbrella of this overall PTO. And our PTO is super excited about this, and so they have assigned each one of their board members there to a school. So each one of the PTO board members will be assigned to a particular school to help that individual PTO at each school level. So really excited about that opportunity because we're a K-12 system, and so what does that transition look like from primary? We need these PTO parents staying with us from primary to intermediate to middle to high school. And so really looking forward to those partnerships. One thing I'm going to admit on the record that my superintendent advisory work group for equitable expectations and outcomes, I still remember the title, really paused in November as we were going into bargaining and strategic plan work. It really kind of fell off my to-do list. I did email that group the other day and I'm scheduled to meet with them, whoever could meet tomorrow afternoon, and then I'll have individual meetings and make that more of a quarterly group that meets. And I do think they have a lot of really good ideas to help our school district. And then moving into performance indicator 2, really want to improve upon our communication. We started doing family newsletters, they're a little sporadic. Really want to commit to doing more of those on a consistent basis, and plus more community newsletters per trimester, even thinking about a mailer to every family that lives in the district a few times a year. There's so many people that are not connected to our school district that need to know the good things that we are doing. And also wanting to, again, emphasizing that as PTO meetings, having monthly parent meetings within the PTO at each building. Moving on down in performance indicator 3, designated administrator to serve as community partnership coordinator. We need to be having more intentional work to create more community partners. And also in that very last middle one, each school will host an activity or an event in partnership with the PTO that will bring families together or provide enrichment opportunities for our students. That's really one that I really want to see how our PTO can partner with our schools. Anything to add on to those, Des?
I think in more of just a general sense, though, like we've talked so much about the data that we're going to be measuring. But the reality is that we're trying to build so many new systems, that's part of the measurement that we'll be looking at also. Like, what are the systems that we establish? What are the times that we create protocols that people follow so that we're getting more consistent, et cetera.
Yeah. And then lastly, on the talent development, the only ones I really wanna highlight here is that, we are relaunching building leadership teams. We had eliminated those, this last year. We did not issue any stipends for those leadership teams, and we did, bring those back. We revamped the job description. Now, these are extra duty assignments, so we came up with a better description of what the responsibilities are to being on a building leadership team. We also are limiting it to 5 at each of the elementary schools, 6 at the middle, and 7 at the high school. We did actually lower the stipend amount a little bit, but also had really clear expectations about the time commitment that those teams are expected to meet, and the principals are sending out those applications today and tomorrow. So we've kind of had a little, I know that 2 of them went out today for staff to indicate interest. Yeah. Any questions? It's still an ambitious
Yeah, it is.
ambitious work, but it's also a good checklist for us. All right, so we're ready for our first reading of policies, and I'm gonna go alphabetically. Assuming that there's not a lot of questions from board members. I picked a couple to highlight, and then I know there's a couple of questions around some of the leave, the leave policies. One policy is the change in the BDDG, the recordings and minutes of board meetings. So when I first read this, I thought Diane is gonna love this new policy, no more board minutes. And so, we will be moving to, they've been recorded. And so moving away from that, we may still want to publish, something with AI tools that can auto-generate something that can create a record. We might consider doing that. But the one thing I do want to note in this proposed BDDG policy, and you've noticed our board chair noting who did the first and second, the motions, is that because there's not going to necessarily be a physical record of this, we are going to need to change a little bit of how those processes work. And so if you notice on BDDG, in the footnote number 5, if minutes are kept in a recorded form, all voting will use a roll call, and if minutes are kept in written form, we'll identify each the vote of each member by name under each board action. So we will be moving away from all in favor to roll call voting. So that people that are listening, the archive can be knowing how each person voted. So just noting some changes there. The other one to highlight is ECCA, access to buildings. We do have some issues with access to our buildings. And so I love how this policy opens with the board directs the superintendent to control access. So when people say, why am I losing my keys? It's because the board directs the superintendent to control access. So we are going to need to tighten up our practices, and if nothing else, know who's using our facilities. So we did have some conversations with some folks just recently this spring about access, and we'll probably be developing some new request forms for how people access our buildings. So in case you hear disgruntled people, we'll say well, the board adopted a policy. All right. So policy GCBD-GDBD, sick leave. So this was actually not part of the OSBA recommendations. This was, as you know, we've been really emphasizing our employee attendance and trying to set some attendance standards. And so, this language that you see there that talks about, you can see on the screen is, it's in a kind of purplish pink color. This is, you actually adopted this a few months ago in the sick time policy, and it really went into the wrong policy. It should be in the sick leave policy. Because sick time is aligned to the state rules, sick leave is how we manage this. So we're moving the same exact language that you adopted and moving it over to this policy. So that first part is nothing new that you didn't already adopt before. But we went through every building and started having conversations with staff around what does this mean and why are we managing sick leave a little, or employee attendance a little bit tighter? So the one question that came up was, well, what is the standard? And so I added this sentence that said, excessive use of sick leave shall be defined as more than 1 day a month on average. And I think the key word is there is average. Any run of the flu in the middle of the year is gonna put you over 1 day a month. We're talking about an average, and sick leave used, and I wanted this next sentence is really important. Sick leave used concurrently with an approved state or federal protected leave shall not be subject to attendance standards. So if they're on any form of protected leave, no attendance standards shall apply. So it's really, what I explained to staff is really when you've exhausted your 10 sick days within a year, plus your 3 personal days, then we might start having a conversation about attendance records. So that would be kind of the standard, so. And then I think there were some questions later, scroll down, well, the same one, this highlighted portion here. This is really confusing, even Kim and I were confused about it, and so Kim put a nice little footnote in here, CORS 332-545. This language comes from an ORS that essentially says that if a teacher exhausts their leave, is placed on an unpaid leave of absence, and is still unable to return to work the following year, the board may terminate the teacher's employment. And this includes if they're a contract teacher, so a teacher that's like on tenure. So this is written in, and this really just this allows a district to take action if someone is going to continually be out. And maybe they won't resign, they want to continue to be on an unpaid leave of absence. We do have the right to terminate their contract at that point, so. Any questions on the sick leave or sick time policies? Thought those might be the questions, but maybe I was just guessing.
I'll speak. On the 10 days, is that a specific, like, what brought you to 10 days?
Well, that's how staff, the allocation of 10 days comes from the state guidelines of basically 1 day per month.
Okay.
So when you're a 10-month employee, you get 1 day of sick leave per month. That's how you get that amount allocated.
Okay,
So that's how I arrived at that number.
no, that's,
Yeah,
I knew you had a reason
Right.
behind it, but.
Yeah.
I wasn't asking for
Yeah.
myself. Okay. Anybody else?
I had a question on, I'm trying to find where it's at, but, it says sick time shall be taken in increments of 15 minutes. And I was just curious about that too, like it just seemed like a lot of.
I wouldn't disagree with you. That is what is in our collective bargaining agreements. And so if we want to change that, we will need to collectively bargain something different. So, because you would not see that in most policies, you would not see that incremental amount that way. But that is what is in our collective bargaining agreements. So we align this policy specifically to that.
It is rare that someone takes 15 minutes, but they take an hour and 15 minutes or 4 hours and 15 minutes. It's like when they get back. So I don't think we've ever seen just 15 minutes.
I was like, that's a lot of like.
Tracking.
Tracking for 15 minutes.
Well, and there are some other, I think things to think about and maybe some data to collect on how much that's happening because, with our subs, our licensed subs it's 4-hour increments.
Yeah,
So if someone were to take a 4.5 hour sick leave, are we then now paying for a full day sub? Are we paying for a half day sub and then having to backfill for 30 minutes? I mean, I think that that's where looking at this to look into the future is to how much work and cost is this 15-minute increment costing us? It might be nothing, and this might be something that works and is fine. But in knowing and having ran a school before and knowing when somebody's out for this, that I'm putting puzzles together, staffing, and I mean, I see Anita's emails every morning about, covering for different staff members, so we might look at this. All right, so if there are other questions between now and within the next 2 weeks, because this kind of conducts our first reading, so these will all be back for adoption in 2 weeks. But if there are questions or other things come up, please let me know.
Could I just make a comment?
Yeah.
About one we talked about tonight? The minutes. I wasn't aware we were making that decision to go to no written minutes, and I just would echo OSBA Spencer Lewis comment that it's good record, but it's very difficult to go back and check one or two things. Have to listen to that whole tape, just to pick it out. Yeah. That's my comment.
Well, in opening up for discussion, would there be, because Diane and I have talked a little bit about this in terms of, do we do some kind of automated thing that can transcribe for us? I'd be open to that. I think Diane, I don't know if you have thoughts on it.
Yeah, I've already played around with some tools that will do kind of an AI generated, just kind of experimenting, if you will. But, and I also know the important pieces that need to be on that, it is conversation that leads to an action. So I'm very cautious about that. So moving forward, it's still like Dan said, we provide a summary, even a chat summary. But we will be abiding by what is required.
I sit on 2 other boards that have switched to doing it AI based, and it's pretty nice. You're able to search whatever you want to go back to and search, it's all there, it's I think it probably makes people's lives a little easier.
I think Spencer talked about that. I think he seemed agreeable from the legal standpoint, just saying that, well, the first few times you might want to audit it and see that.
Yes.
Seem okay.
We use it for at work. We use it for a lot of stuff, the summarized transcription. And it works great, and again, it's searchable, so if you're looking for a specific thing, you just search it and it really takes out like pages of reading or anything.
For now, what I've been doing also is keeping the transcript of the meeting. And that's pretty much a verbatim, and that's why it's important to say your name. I can see so-and-so, the vote went out, but it doesn't tell me who voted. So that's another reliable piece that will keep us out of trouble.
I know it's a big job to transcribe.
Oh, it is.
All right.
Okay, anything else?
No?
Anything else? All right, we will adjourn at 7:14.
Well done.